we're just coming off of our episode with Anjie Cho, where she shared a lot of really interesting information. I hope everyone got a chance to listen to it before they get on here, because it's a little bit of a spoiler alert type of a thing, because we will be rehashing our takeaways and talk about some of the impressions we had from that episode with her.
Yeah. So pause if you haven't listened and then go back and listen to that one.
Yep. So tell me, I mean, Tamsin, you have this existing relationship with Anjie. The two of you have worked together for various projects, podcasts, and you've hosted her for at least one workshop that I know of, but maybe more than that. And I'm curious what new things you learned that Anjie shared.
Yeah. So Anjie Cho is the podcast host of Holistic Spaces and co-founder of Mindful Design. She's an architect, and she does tons of other things, which she'll share in the last episode. And it's so funny because I found Anjie on Instagram like years ago when I was in acupuncture school, and I was like, whoa, she's Asian. and I think I'd latched onto her being an architect because I had dated an architect and he's the best boyfriend I've had. And so I was like obsessed with architects. I'm like, man, I wish I could do this, but I just love other people that do this. And then later, I mean, I've always been kind of interested in Feng Shui, and it's unfortunate that we don't get to learn that in acupuncture school. But it blew my mind that there was this Asian woman who was like really big in what I would say pop culture field. And that's what I was trying to get into from being a Chinese medicine practitioner. And then I found out she was Korean. And then I found out she was from New York. And I was like, oh my gosh. And so I've never told Anjie this. I think that I've had the hugest girl crush on her. And then we just connected over time. I mean, I had a huge girl crush on you when, we weren't friends when we both supported each other's business, right? And so it's wild that like I can call her my friend. And so even though we're friends, we haven't met because pandemic and I hope we do one day. But even as friends, I don't think we talk about beauty and the things that we talked about in the last episode with our friends. And so it's so cool to like hear like, and learn so much about beauty and the way that she was explaining it. And it really, and there were certain things that I never thought about or like couldn't, or kind of disagreed maybe, or I not disagree, but like came from a different perspective. And so like so many things that I have to reflect on of what you said, because there was a lot of really good stuff.
Right.
And I know this was your first time meeting Anjie.
Well, yeah, I mean, more on like a two-on-one basis versus when I was in her workshop. And I think like right from the gates when I was like, Feng Shui is about beauty. And she was like, I've never seen Feng Shui about beauty.
I was like, oh.
I was like, there goes our episode. No, I'm just joking. I was like, dang, now what do we talk about? No,
I love it because I was like,
yes,
what is it?
But it was interesting because the way that she then described it to me was beautiful.
Yeah, totally.
I was like, and so it always is like informing us on beauty and making us question like, so what is it to be beautiful? What does beauty mean? What does it look like? It takes all these different shapes and forms. And then from the start, she like served that to us. And it was like, oh, wow. Okay. We're like shifting so quickly.
Yeah. She talked about Qi and the Qi, that's because she even said like a lot of Feng Shui practitioners have very bad taste. And then I have
that's hilarious.
I had these images like when you Google Feng Shui and you see like, wow, like fountain with the red envelopes and it's all in one corner. It's like, oh my God, it's too much. And then she talked about Qi, and then it's funny because I can't remember specifically, but when she was talking about Qi, she was like, it's life, it's realness. And
Mm-hmm.
that really reminded me of face reading because,
Mm-hmm.
and she talked about the eyes, right? Like that's where you
Right.
see key in life. And then in face reading, like that's where you see the Shen, that's where you see the peach blossom luck, like things that these attributes to your of your spirit and your face that attracts people to you.
Mm-hmm.
That has nothing to do with your physical features of beauty.
Right. Yeah. What are something was there anything she said that surprised you apart from what we just mentioned when,
Oh my god,
you know?
everything. Yeah, the video was probably me be like, I think the one, I mean, there were a couple things, right? Like one, she talked about her practice of ikebana, which is like this Japanese floral design practice, a meditative practice, and how the floral design is a meditative practice, and you use different types of flowers, and you even use like not like quote unquote like ugly types of flowers too as part of it, right? And that in itself is like what makes it beautiful. But then like this blew my mind. I don't know why it freaked me out so much. Then you take you take the flowers apart. Like after you put
Yeah.
it together and make this beautiful arrangement, I thought like, okay, cool. I'm gonna take it home now. Like I did my Ikebana workshop, but you take it apart. And I kept thinking like I was visualizing myself in a class with her and her like taking it apart, but like, no, I didn't take the picture from my Instagram.
That was total news to me too, by the way. I had no idea that that is, but you know, that also to like, it felt so, when she shared that, it surprised me. But then I was like, wow, that really feels like that would be part of the practice
Mm-hmm.
because it's not all about this like instant gratification and walking away from something once you make it.
Or attachment to this beautiful thing that
Exactly.
you just created. The
Right.
whole point is impermanence, right?
Right.
It's this thing of letting go, which makes it even so much more beautiful. Right.
Mm-hmm. I know. Yeah. That part of it, I was like, wow, that is so interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it felt like it really spoke to Japanese culture and how they see and view life. And then
Yeah.
also this the Buddhist aspect of that.
It's very different to like American floral design. Like the fact that she said, you know, you put these like branches that
Mm-hmm.
might not be alive or
Yep.
dying, or whatever, and then you put new buds. Like each thing represents something, like
And they're
different
in different
in life.
stages. Yep.
Yeah. Whereas American floral design, I don't want to say American, but you know, like the floral design that we're used to seeing, it's all about like getting the most beautiful, expensive flowers that are all in
Mm-hmm.
this
It's
vibrant
peak.
stage. Yeah, and the
Yep.
peak. And then that's such Western culture of beauty too. Like you're only beautiful this certain age. Like we at
Mm-hmm.
the end, like how we were all beautiful at 17, you know,
Right.
and this youth.
Mm-hmm. And then when I think of that too, and like, I don't know, just getting flowers at a florist or a grocery store, they're also kind of GMO or like chemically
Mm,
altered to get that extra vibrancy, and the type of water that they're kept in and stuff. It manipulates how they look. And that is also another, I mean, I don't know if Ikebana is pulling from similar flowers. It sounds like it's not. It sounds like they're all in their natural state.
oh,
Or,
I wonder what farm, like what their farm.
yeah.
Mhm.
But I think that that's another comment on Western culture. This kind of like pumping in and infusing. I mean, you can kind of say like people who do a lot of like manipulation to the self, um, like unnaturally, or is that's also almost like a GMO, right? Like another type of a GMO.
Yeah.
And I don't know, that part of it's interesting too, because it's
Or the
like,
creams, like
mm-hmm,
like creams that are just mass produced, or you don't know what chemicals are being used, rather than using like more natural products, or like people like independent small business owners that spend a lot of time in their kitchen, basically not even a lab, like in their
right.
kitchen, just testing different types of creams and things like that, and coming up with their own product that works like that. I feel like then you feel their chi, right? And then you're putting that onto your face. And I'm so superficial that like that's the chi I want. I want that good chi that you can feel, rather than it being like I mean I just found out this whole facial industry secret of white labeling, where basically people just pay companies to come up with brands like your product, like a moisturizer or a serum, whatever, and then you just slap your brand name on it and then you sell it, which is whatever. It's fine, I guess. I get it. You know, you want to mass produce. What I have a problem with that is the lack of transparency. It's when brands say like, I created this, like this is the cream that I created. And I was like, no, you're not. You paid a bunch of money to get this lab to create something for you. And by the way, they're also doing this for like 100 other companies.
Yeah.
And then what's that chi that I'm putting onto my face?
Right. Yeah.
Because my skin, you know, my skin ritual, like I'm trying to develop one, and I'm realizing it has less to do. Yeah, I mean, like, okay, I hope it helps my skin look great, right? But when I do it, it's like it's this practice of self-love that I didn't grow up with, and that I'm discovering right now.
Right.
And so to me, that chi feels different. Which is why it was Young Face. Plug.
Yeah, I mean, it absolutely is different. It really is. And it goes through so many people's hands. Yeah, when it's in that kind of environment. And it's also very sterile.
Right.
And I don't mean that just in the sense that it's like sanitary. I mean it like sterile with lack of life and chi in that environment. And it's extracting. So the thing is, it's extracting different, it's like a conveyor belt or something. And it feels like they just like pull this and pull that and pull this and then throw it together. And yeah, there's something about that. I think when we think of how like TCM formulas are made, how they're supposed to be made, and then how some brands will run away with it and turn it into something else. I think of that too, in like the whole thing.
No, I will not drink those herbs. Like, no way. I will not mess with that, because it's like, how could, first of all, because Chinese herbal formulas aren't like supplements. You're not supposed to take them every day. There's a purpose and reason behind taking these herbs. And so like, I'm not going to take one for energy every day for a week or whatever it is. Yeah. And I loved how Anjie talked about impermanence and aging. And it's like you and Anjie kind of had the similar, like, it sounded like both of you are less afraid of aging than I am.
Well, but
like,
but
yeah,
because I think, well, no, because I think for you, it was like, I never thought I was going to age. I didn't think I'd be here to age. So you went 28 to 32 years or whatever that your timeline was when you thought you were going to die, not preparing for this part of your life.
Not even knowing that this part of my life would exist.
Right. So you weren't able to build the tools. And now that surprise, you're still alive, you're kind of like, well, what the hell?
Right. It's like I got off the wrong train station. Like, where am I?
Oh my gosh. Yeah. So that makes sense to me. But do you feel a little differently now, like from some of the things that she shared and what we talked about?
That hearing you say that's how you perceived me, like that makes me feel better, a lot better actually. Because I was like, oh my God, like am I the only one in the world that freaks out about this? Because it wasn't like physical, like the decline of physical beauty that like I think is common in terms of aging that people fear. For me, it's this fear of not being seen and being ignored in society. I think that also goes to the fact that like I don't have kids, I don't want kids. And then also I'm not in a relationship. I don't really see myself getting married. I keep
Mm,
thinking like if I ever get married, it'll probably be when I'm like 85 and like
mhm.
my neighbor across the street is also 85 and we just like we're the cute old couple. I just I it's hard for me and I never wanted to get married and I never wanted to have kids. But when you're young, you're like, yeah, screw kids, screw marriage. But as you get
Mm,
older and like, like Angie mentioned, she sprained or like she hurt her knee running. Like I've definitely done that, like hurt my body. I'm like, but one's here to take care of me.
yeah,
And so not being seen in society because there's no one close to me in my home environment who sees me,
right.
that hits me so much harder. And I think I've experienced moments of like little moments of that, of being
Mhm,
invisible in society, which no one
mhm.
should be. I hate that. Like, I hate that older people are invisible to other people. But you see this in other, it's not even just older people. You see this people with bigger bodies.
Yeah,
They're ignored completely or
yeah.
treated differently. You see people with disabilities,
Mhm.
people who don't wear like
Different
clothes,
ethnicities.
different
Yeah,
ethnicities, right? So it's like,
genders.
great. Yeah. I
Mhm.
mean, yeah, I guess being an Asian woman, I should be used to being invisible. It's like nothing new.
Oh my God. But it's like, it sounds like it's like, what people, your life isn't being witnessed on a daily basis.
Yeah.
Like how someone that has a family or children or a partner is being witnessed to that person's life.
Yeah.
And so you,
Witnessing.
right. So you don't have that day in and day out. And then when you walk, so it's almost like there's this like subliminal messaging in that, in like your subconscious. Cause then when you step out, it's kind of like, why then it's like, I don't know if this is true, but you're thinking, well, why would I expect someone to be watching me now?
Yeah. I mean, I also think like growing up, I wasn't being seen either. So it's not like, and I think as an adult, that's so much of my work. See me, witness
Yeah.
me. And I do this for other people, like as a face reader. Like
Hmm.
I love witnessing people and seeing them in a
Hmm.
way that they probably was never seen. But you see this as an acupuncturist, I remember feeling that with patients,
Right.
witnessing them. It's such a powerful, like, not that you should get your validations from other people, but it is a
Hmm.
powerful moment when when someone sees you.
Hmm. So do you feel like that's healing for you to be in that type of work, or does it kind of make it blaringly more, like, what's the word? Like it shows the void more, or is it both, like both existing at the same time?
I think for me, it's like I want everybody to be seen. Then, like when I work with clients, it's they not often do they tell me that like the feature that they hate the most is the one that I love or that I mention. They'll tell me later, like months later, or they'll drop an email or
Mm-hmm.
something, and I'll have no idea. Um, and then when I do a reading, it's very quick, it's very fast. We spend a lot of time, but I'm like, and this, da, 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 da. And then but then when I see their face at the end of the session, it looks different, just like how I used to see
Mm-hmm.
my patient's face when I was a clinician. It's different, the
Right.
shen shifts, right?
Right.
And it's like, oh, now everyone can see you who I saw. And I think my drive is like, we should just, like, everyone should be seen. And it makes me so sad when people aren't being seen.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe that's why I do this work.
Right. So what does it take for you to be seen?
Mm. I don't know. I probably have to think about it. I think it's a lot of internal stuff because so what? Somebody sees you. So what if I see you?
Mm-hmm.
But after that, the shen shifts so quick, right? Like
Right.
you're gone, you leave the door, and then that's it.
Mm-hmm.
And then hopefully it's up to you to connect that. I mean, you see that with your patients probably, right? I mean,
Mm-hmm.
come back the next week, right?
Right. So that's where there's that difference. I mean, now I know you're doing more like returning client type of work, but I'm just presuming that like so much of the thing you do is you see them once, you see this profound change, and then you kind of like release them.
Yeah,
But
sometimes
then,
that's nice too.
yeah,
Just being like,
yeah, that's true.
I think sometimes being a clinician too, I realize patients depend on you so much. And like being a
Hmm.
teacher, students and it's like you really shouldn't depend on anybody. Go off and be free.
Yeah, no, I always say that too with my patients. I'm like, I love you. I love seeing you, but I like don't want to always have to see you. Like I want you to be empowered with your own tools and your own ability to be your best doctor and not need me for that.
Yeah. Yeah. Man, I also I don't know why I started thinking about this, but I love that we spent some time talking about Angie's goth background.
Hmm.
I have like tons of questions. Like I want to go meet other goths. I have a lot of questions about the goth culture because I mean the way that she was explaining it, it was just it sounded like it was people who were considered outcasts were
Yeah.
drawn to goth culture. And maybe that's how it is with subcultures. Um, but the way they express themselves is like more of being seen. Like you are
Yep.
literally in white face and dark clothes. Like no, and that's kind of like taking back and being seen in the way that you want to.
Hmm. It's multi-layered, right? Because I
Totally.
think the drive may have been to like not participate in the mainstream culture of beauty, what's attractive, and how like what she was describing in high school to be just like blonde girls being the most popular, considered the most beautiful. And then you join a group where it seems like everyone sees one another within that community,
Mhm.
but then you express yourself in a way that's so different than everyone else that you actually ironically are being seen more.
Mhm.
So it kind of like develops. It's like it evolves, it just goes from what you might have intended, but then actually the outcome is you're being seen more ultimately. So that part of it is really interesting. And as a teen and someone in college in your young 20s, like I wonder how many of these of her friends and herself were even aware that that is how it was manifesting.
Yeah. I was
Hmm.
wondering like why don't we do that as adults? Like, it's like only accepted when you're in high school and college. And then you can't just like be in your 40s and be like, I'm gonna be a goth now.
Yeah. No, I know it's true.
Can you imagine, Paige, if I just like showed up and like I'm gonna totally do it actually now that I said it. Oh goth.
I would die if you came to visit me and I pick you up at the airport and I'm like, I'm gonna go pick up my goth friend.
Especially in Hawaii where everybody's so happy and there's rainbows everywhere. And I show all black. I mean, it's so funny because you know, you I was telling Angie like when I told you about her being goth, I'm like, can you believe this? And you were like, yes, I can, because she wears black and she wears
Hmm.
lipstick.
Yeah.
And and then I was saying that how like I thought the black wearing black was just a New York thing because in New York we all wear black. There's different shades of black to us, right?
Yeah.
And when I travel, like I always kind of wear the same thing, like super comfy black hoodie and pant and athletic pants or whatever. And I went to Miami for a conference. Miami is again sunny. Like everything is gold and fuchsia and Versace. And like I roll out and my Uber driver is like, "Are you from New York?" And I was like, "Yes. How
Yeah.
can you?" He's like, "Only New Yorkers wear black here."
Oh my God, that's too funny. I
In
guess
Hawaii,
I didn't realize I knew that about like Parisians, and it makes sense to me that New Yorkers would be the same.
Parisians wear black. Oh, yo, yeah. Is it?
Hmm.
Ah, yeah, yeah,
Hmm.
yeah.
Yeah.
Chanel.
Yeah. So I mean, we have a few more minutes here. Are there any other, I mean, of course, we're going to continue to digest information, infuse it into our upcoming episodes, and maybe even refer back from time to time to our time with Anjie. But are there any other things that you wanted to make note of right now?
I think it was just so cool to like I mean, Angie was our first guest, right? You and I have had these conversations a few times, multiple times to prepare for the podcast, but to actually have a guest on and then ask these questions like, how do you define beauty? What's the most beautiful thing about you right now? Like, what beauty legacy do you want to leave behind? It was just so cool to hear her answer and and kind of be blown away. Like, whoa, I never thought of it that way. And then it made me so excited about having all
Mhm.
these other guests and asking them because I'm 100% sure it's going to be a lot of things that I've never even thought about. And I really think this is going to be so healing for me personally and hopefully for other people.
Yeah, I definitely agree. And I think too, even though she's not a Chinese medicine practitioner, there are these overlaps with feng shui and how we see and understand energy. And then also being an Asian female, but still with those similarities, I learned so much. And it did make me feel similar to you, where I was like, wow, what else are we going to hear and learn from people that we don't really have any overlaps with?
Yeah.
And that part of it is really cool. And it's gonna, yeah, I'm really excited. And this is a great way to kick it off though and feel comfortable and get comfortable in the space of our podcast. So thank you everyone for
Yeah,
listening.
I'm excited.
And yeah, same. All right, Tamsin.
Bye,
Bye.
Paige. Bye, everyone.